Hi guys, Rohan here. I'm recording this voiceover on top of a clip I already did because the audio is fucked. I've completed my challenge of getting all classes to level 50 on hardcore, and I started working on my Barbarian. The build I've chosen to do is a thorns Barbarian, utilizing berserk as sort of like an enabler and helps on single target when the mobs are not attacking you. So the main enabler is this legendary here that procs thorns when we're berserking, and we're keeping the berserk up by using double swing. It has a modifier that makes it extend berserking, and we go into berserk using steel grasp. So I'll be doing the tier 4 capstone dungeon just before I get my power spike. The power spike is thorn plate, or whatever the unique is called, the chest that gives you a bunch of thorns. I have one in my stash for level 65 from my necromancer, but I wanted to do the T4 before that, sort of simulating what the build is like before it gets this massive power spike. I'm level 64 hardcore, and this is obviously a level 70 capstone. Usually, from my experience, it's a pretty tough one, but I guess we'll see how this build performs. It's uh, it's usually really good when there is a lot of mob density, but it sort of falls off once there is like just a single mob. So I'm honestly mostly worried about the final boss fight, and here I'm getting some rage just to make sure that I can double swing and extend the berserk. And as you can see, it's clearing packs relatively okay. Of course, there was no elite, so it's not really a big proof. And again, obviously, the real challenge is the third part of the dungeon where the really dangerous elites that are stunning you are happening. So the build is still forming. I didn't want to invest too much time in it in World Tier 3 because I feel like all the gear that I'm gonna make and all the legendaries I'm gonna use are gonna get replaced very soon. So that's why I'm a little bit impatient to get into World Tier 4 because that's where the fun starts, and that's when the items that drop really stay in your build. So I can have some sort of semi-permanence and really start figuring the build out. And right now, what I have is working okay. So it's not like I'm really gimping myself. Um, so I've been experimenting with a bunch of different legendary affixes, and of course there are some non-negotiable ones that you have to have in hardcore, like this. Actually, you have to have them in softcore as well, probably. Like disobedience and the one that gives you unstoppable if you get injured. So those ones are really important, but I've been trying to figure out what exactly the Thorns build requires, because of course the build has some sort of, you know, negatives. Like here we see um, the the structures, they don't attack you and they don't get stunned. So if they don't attack you, they don't proc Thorns, which is your main source of damage. And if they don't get stunned, you cannot sustain double swing infinitely, because double swing refunds its cost if you attack a stunned enemy. We're using two one-handed maces, by the way, to make sure that we can stun enemies. And yeah, that's where the build really struggles, on like this super single target. That's why I said I'm a little worried about the boss fight in this dungeon, because the boss is, you know, it's more like a caster, so it's not gonna attack me that frequently, I feel like, but I don't know. So let's see. Um, as you saw, I left the shamans, the priests alive because they are resurrecting mobs, and when the mobs attack me, I have a chance to proc the AoE thorns, which might damage the structure. So it was really good that they were there. Um, so yeah, if I can, I'm keeping those alive because I want mobs hitting me. That really helps. And it's really gonna go into overdrive once I find a good legendary affix with a good percent chance. Because you put the percent chance of AoE thorns on your bludgeoning weapon, and you put the thorns while berserking on your two-handed slashing weapon, so the effects are multiplied times 2. So you can go up to 80% chance of the AoE thorns, which is gonna be just massive. And the berserking one as well. You want to put that one on the higher eye level piece of the two weapons. It just happens to be the slashing one for me. And as you can see, once we pull the mobs and they're grouped up, they just explode. Like it's like an explosion, but in fact it's just thorns broken on AoE at around 40% right now, 40% rate, because I'm using the base codex. And that's actually a good thing about this build, that it actually gets to this point. 90% or 95% of this is just codex powers. So I'm wondering what kind of interesting stuff I find for Barbarian for this, because if I'm honest, I'm really bad at making the Barbarian build right now, because my previous one was overpower, and the way you scale overpower is just put more overpower damage, and it's super simple. But here I need to think about like crits for my weapon swings, but the thorns can't crit, so I want vulnerable, but how do I apply vulnerable? So maybe I want damage while berserking, but I sort of want, as well strength because it's a multiplier. So I have to think about all this stuff, and I don't have this figured out yet. But the build seems to be performing regardless. Maybe it's not the best in the world, but I think it's acceptable level, especially for hardcore when I need to overcommit on the defensives. As you can see, I have zero close calls, zero issues. So I have been experimenting with some stuff, and if you have any tips on how should I build this, if you maybe did a similar build or maybe the same one, and you're you want to help me for the final iteration of this build, I would really appreciate any sort of tips you can get. I didn't ask for this on my previous video on the Blood Necromancer, and I got so many good advice, so much good advice. Some of them are like, why didn't I think of this? It's so obvious. So maybe you guys also have something that seems obvious to you, but it's not obvious to me because I'm not good at Barbarian yet. So please write them down because I really appreciate those. It really helps. And here I'm gonna do a trick. If you know this this dungeon sets a debuff on you, all you need to do is TP out. The debuff is stacking, so it's kind of a big deal if your damage is low. So if you just TP out and TP in, you no longer get the debuff. I found this by accident on my softcore because my softcore character was so weak that I that I needed to go out to refill potions while fighting the elites. And I came back and I noticed that there are no debuffs. So I don't know. Probably it's not intended, but so much stuff in this game is not intended that it's just yeah, it's whatever. It's not like it's a big deal. The stacking debuff drops when you kill monsters, and I'm killing monsters all the time, so it's probably not even a big deal. It was a big deal for my softcore character, which was really slow at killing the elites. So yeah. Oh, here we see like an example. Like this is very bad. Like this one single full HP mob that is not attacking me. It's really bad for this build. It takes forever, as you can see. So so I need to figure this out. Maybe sort of invest more on this double swing portion, because the double swing is only one rank. Its main purpose is to enable the berserk. So it's not really, I'm not really treating it as a damage skill. It's just for the uptime. You can see the berserk, like the violet icon of berserk at the bottom. It goes up to 10 seconds because of the keystone passive, and each time you double swing, you extend this by 2 seconds. So the main like idea is you just want to keep double swinging on mobs, and if there's no mobs or you're not generating enough rage, you just lose the berserk, and it just feels bad. So you want to do it as much as possible, and obviously group the mobs like this so they explode. And you see those are the difficult mobs, the ones that stun you, and they fall down pretty fast, I think. Like given the difference level of 6 levels and the fact that I get the butcher's cleaver, which is really nice. I always thought this only drops from the butcher, so I was always wondering why am I not getting it after so many butcher kills, but yeah. So what I was saying, yeah, definitely definitely try to group the mobs and upkeep the berserk, and maybe I need to invest more into this. But this build is so starved for skill points. The Barbarian skill tree is actually really interesting compared to Necromancer. Very, very good nodes all around. Like I want to pick up everything, and it feels really good to have meaningful choices on the tree, which is a contrast to the Necro where I just had spare points when I didn't know where to put them, and I put them in the skills, which didn't make a difference. Anyway, we're approaching the boss fight. This is the interesting part. How this build will perform on the boss fight. This boss fight is good because it summons minions sometimes, so the minions are good. But for now, I need to rely mostly on my double swing. So let's see how it goes. As you can see, I'm standing in everything. I'm getting hit by everything on purpose, obviously. The mobs die too fast. And here we go into stun, and then I can upkeep my double swing non-stop because it gets constantly refunded. So we're sort of relying on bosses to get this stun, and then we try to pop off. I should have used the berserking rage when the boss was stunned because it actually increases my damage quite significantly. But if I'm honest, I forgot. I was a little bit excited. So I was hoping for another stun before I killed the boss. But turns out I had way too much damage, and the boss is just gonna fall before I am able to stand it. So yeah, I think it was quite decent. It's not obviously not the biggest DPS in the world or anything, but this is like a brain dead build. If you're a boomer like me, you can't play the game. You don't know how anything works yet because you've never done a build that does real damage, only overpowered damage, and you just want to have fun with people hitting you, and you want to be safe on hardcore. Try this build out because I think it's really interesting, and maybe give me some tips on what is your iteration. Here I'm gonna show you the razor blade that is waiting for me. I'm really excited for it. Level 65. It's actually nuts. It's gonna like double my damage or something. A little less survivability because of course the chest piece is a big defensive component. So here I'm gonna show you the build itself if you want to try it out. We go to Frenzy, mostly for the damage reduction. It's really, really good on hardcore. 24% damage reduction if you're at 3 Frenzy stacks. It's just insane. Cannot be beat. It's so good. Then we go into double swing. As I said, 1 rank, and mostly for this, for Furious double swing, we want to extend the berserking, and the enhanced is really nice because if you stun, you can cast it for free. So you don't have to generate as much rage as you would think. The Iron Skin is really good because it grants Unstoppable with this legendary affix. It's extremely important to have 2 sources of Unstoppable, and it also serves as a sustain, so I don't have to pop potions all the time. The heal is really good. I underestimated it. It's really good. We go to Thorns, we go to Bleed Thorns, we go to Challenging Shout for more Thorns and for some defensives. It's obviously a hardcore mandatory skill. And this is the only shout I go for. I tried with more shouts, but maybe I didn't understand it, the shout meta. I just wanted to do something else. I tried also charge. Charge is really good. It serves as a berserking enabler as well, but it also grants unstoppable and it's like a movement skill. So I wanted to try it out, but it doesn't feel that good, to be honest. And you need to invest in battle fervor for it to be an enabler. So instead I got the Wrath of the Berserker, which helps on single target, which is like a very long unstoppable, and it's a movement steroid. We go into all the good passives here, and we go to Steel Grasp. You've seen me use it. It's really weird that I have this in the build because nobody uses it, but for me, this gets us into Berserking on a very low cooldown. So even if I drop it, because the density of mobs is low, I can immediately get it. The Hamstring is important because it gets you as the slow, and when the mobs are slowed, they are crowd controlled and they're slowed, so we can use different gear. And all the fortify nodes are really good. The duelist node, it's just for attack speed. I think I might drop it in favor of the counter-offensive one to get more damage, but for now it's just good quality of life to have more attack speed, I feel like. Then concussion, this is very important. You get the chance to stun using bludgeoning weapons. Yeah, this enables us to use the double swing so often. So that's really, really good, I feel like. And yeah, of course, unconstrained. Very important to keep our berserking up and to increase the berserking bonuses. It's super good, and the Wrath of the Berserker on the ultimate skill is also really good because it sort of lets us, once we spend the Fury, increase the damage. On the Paragon board, I'm all over the place. I'm just picking up the berserking nodes and I'm picking up glyph sockets. I'm figuring it out. Give me your tips. It's because I want to know. It's so hard to do it on a new class, which I didn't do that much research. Yeah, this is just a short rundown of the legendary powers. It's mostly standard stuff. This one is good. The bleeding while we deal direct damage. This one is mandatory, non-negotiable. Iron Skin gives unstoppable. It's super good. This one as well, non-negotiable. Unstoppable when injured. Saves your ass so many times if you get into those hairy situations. This is very good, but probably not the amulet affix of choice. It just was on this amulet, so I left it. Those this affix of the Dust Devil is just garbage. Just don't use it. And yeah, this one I'm testing. It seems to do very low damage, so I don't know. And this one is really good. More damage to stunned enemies. Helps us on single target on elites because we regularly stun elites, and helps us on this burn phase on boss fights. So I think it's really good. Maybe that goes on the amulet. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, that is the build, and if you enjoyed it, let me know. If you want to see something similar, or if you want to see more of this build once I progress it. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe, whatever, the YouTube stuff. And yeah, thank you so much, and take care.